Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. So if this is your first time here or you've recently joined me, a big welcome to you. If you've been here before, thanks ever so much for coming back, and a very big welcome to you also. So I am continuing with my concertina accordion journal. I have got a few pages to attach. If you saw my last video, I was doing some prep work so that I could work on these pages when I was actually away. So I've got them finished, or as close to being finished as I think I'm going to take them at this point in time. The approach here was slightly differently. I'd prepared the backgrounds in advance. I used the little tin of paints and some paint pens when I was away. One of the times I was back, I did actually add some more ink to them. So if you watched my last video, you'd see that I used a muted turquoise, a muted green, both by Liquitex. But I couldn't resist on one of the occasions actually adding some sepia ink from the Daler Rowney FW range. I'm just going to very quickly show you these. They look quite similar in a way, and I think that was because while I was working on one, you know, when I started the next one, I'd sometimes go back and do a little bit on that one. It was just a way of kind of getting the page done and, you know, working on things at night. So I've decided this is the front. I've not come in with the stencil that I usually come in with, but I have gone round them with the gold paint. I did that last week when I was just finishing off this week's. So just using collage, using paint and using the paint pens just to add really mark making. I do like that side as well, but I decided this would be my kind of front. So there's a similarity to them as part of a kind of small body of work over 4 weeks, but by the same token, they are all different. So these will get added to my journal. I'm not going to do that in this video, or if I do, I'll do it at the end and just put it on fast forward. I do need to, with this page, this was where I built in the hidden journal. So of course I did put a slightly different binding on it so that I can tie this closed. So when it comes to adding this one on, I'll be doing something similar. So I will possibly film that just so that you can see how we've completed that page. So we've got a few little journals and a tag tucked in throughout here, and I've decided that this week I want to do, because these 4 weeks were not plain pages but just nothing additional to them, I've decided that this week I want to do a page where it will be open at the top and we'll put a tag on the inside. So if you're following along, you know, up to you if you want to do something like that or something different. Let me put these to the side and get set up for doing this week's page. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of this now as a voiceover. I have here, it's just a piece of baking paper, and it's quite handy to glue on because in between times any glue on it just seems to be absorbed, lose its stickiness or whatever, and I can use it over and over again. So I've got 2 of my pre-cut pieces of paper. In fact, I've got 3 pieces. I'm going to use one as the back, one as the front, and I'm tearing this piece in half, and I'll use one half of it for my tag. So there you go. Again, just to repeat, it's a piece of 12 by 12 paper that I have cut down. I've got some old dictionary pages there, and I'm simply going to glue these to each side, and this will just help thicken the paper up. Now, I'm not going to be too concerned about the inside, though I am going to put a layer of the dictionary page in. And I've decided this week, just for speed, I am again going to use my glue stick. When I did the backgrounds, I was really quite pleased that the glue stick seemed to hold up well. So yeah, I'm not saying I would use the glue stick all the time, but if it's going to hold for this journal, then I'm kind of quite happy to use it. So you'll see I put glue on one side of the kind of substrate, and I also put glue on the dictionary page. I line them up just to try and there's not too much cutting or tearing has to go on, but what I will do is all the pages in the same way. I use my palette knife just to try and get those edges well bonded. I press it down on both sides. It also takes out any little air bubbles or any little lumps of glue. I'll then tear away any excess overhang, and I will then repeat the process on the other side so that each side of each card is well covered. I'm now moving on to simply selecting some pieces of collage and gluing these in place. I have put this on at double speed because it's a fairly straightforward process, and I'll just add a little bit of music because there's not much more to say about it. Once I've got the collage down, I want to add some colours to try and unify the page. So I'm using this Vallejo Transoxide Red, which is a fluid acrylic. I'm only going to put a tiny amount onto each. You don't need a lot of this. And then I will simply spritz some water. I'll let it run a bit, but I'll also add in or bring in a paintbrush just to spread it a little. This just means that some of the collage where it was very white in the background, this will take on a bit of colour. You'll see I also painted the backs of the cards, each of those 2 cards, which will become the inside, and that's simply so that if any element of the pocket was kind of opened at any point, it doesn't just look a kind of stark white. I didn't paint the back of the little tag because I am going to be adding another piece of paper to that at some point. So once all these 3 were done, I then introduced one of my favourite things, and that is ink. It's a Dale Rowney FW range sepia ink, one of my favourite inks of all times. And again, I just put some down, I sprayed it, I moved it about a bit just by tipping the cards from side to side and up and down, and played a little bit just using my finger just to fill in some gaps. You can see there that the paper, some of the collage has gone transparent. You can actually see some of the earlier collage underneath. This for me is a very relaxing process, so I'm not going to say any more about it, and again I'm just going to put on some nice music and hope you enjoy it. So at one point I left the pages just to dry a little bit, just for 5 minutes or so, and then I took some of those old pages and just absorbed any extra ink on those. And all I'm doing now is adding that little bit of checked paper to the back of my tag. This was a bit from an old jotter, an old exercise book, school book type thing, and I had tea dyed it or something at some point. Now I want to add a bit of stenciling to them, just using that stencil that I've used on many of my pages and just using the Arteza Gold Metallic ink. And all I'm going to do is to use a sponge. I'm going to pick different parts of the stencil. I don't want to overdo it, and my background colour is such that this will probably really only show through when the light hits it, so I'm not putting it on too thick at all. And what I usually try and do is maybe dab some in about 3 different places on the card. I didn't feel the need to kind of overdo this today, so there's plenty of variety on this particular stencil, and you know, I just move it about across each page just to get a little bit of different detail. And then I will also do the tag in the same way. I think with the tag I maybe put on just a little bit more just to give it some interest. So I'm now looking at my 2 pieces and trying to decide which I want as a front page and which is a back page, and kind of what way up I want them to go. You know, I want to decide at this stage before I glue both together, after which point it would be too late. And it's the kind of thing that there's no wrong way or right way doing this sort of thing. It's just whatever appeals at any particular given point in time. So once I've decided that, I'm going to get out my glue. I'm just using the 3-in-1 glue. Now I had been storing it upside down. I usually find it easier, but some of it leaked, so there was a big dry blob on it. However, thankfully it was still working. So I'll do down both sides and of course along the bottom. So I put a thicker layer on that first card, and on the second one I just put a few dabs of glue around the same lines. I'll then put them together, trying to line it up to make sure I don't get any glue in the middle. All I'll do is put it onto a piece of the baking paper that wasn't hadn't had glue on it, and just push them together to make sure that I've got a good bond. Now I'm just going to go round the edges as I often do, just using the sponge again with the Arteza Gold glue. So I'll go around all the edges, and I'm careful at the top of the main page to make sure that I don't put so much on that the two actually stick together. So here I am doing that, just going a little bit cautiously just to make sure that I don't go right over. And as I say, I don't want to glue both together. And I will of course go around my little tag. And in just a moment I'll be coming back in just to let you know how I finished the page and the tag off. So I'm nearly finished. It's funny, over recent weeks I've been thinking, can I keep going with my channel? I want to, because I've made so many good friends. But you know, there are times where now, in the last couple of years, I've had to step away for a little while and then come back, and I always feel drawn to coming back. So while I was sitting here waiting on stuff drying, I thought I'm going to add some found words to things. I love found words, and it just felt right that I added some to the main page and to the tag. And the sun started to come out, it's warmed up, the birds are singing. So the found words are: you have been witnesses to such and such things. And on the tag I've put finding some rays of hope. So I'm going to let this dry fully before I attach it, and I'll do all the pages at once when I come to attaching. I am going to pop my little tag in here. So it's quite a tight opening, but it will go in like so. I am going to put a bit on it. I'm quite happy for this to stick up above the opening. I'm just going to staple this on. I was going to use my little Tim Holtz stapler, but I can't find it, so no worries. I might write something on here, whether I do it now or later, just where I find rays of hope. I quite like that bent like that, rather than just being straight up and down. Do I? This is just a little scrap of fabric. I think I'm just going to put it on like that. Probably 2 staples in it. Let's go for 3. Oh, stapled it right on top of the other one. Not clever. I like that. And that will go in like so. And I'll have it sticking up out my journal just so you can see that that's there and no more. And when I come to it, I can pull this out. I'm going to leave it out for the time being just to make sure that everything is totally dry. Hope you've enjoyed that. I might do a video putting all those bits and pieces together, you know, sticking all the pages together, or I might just do it. I'll see what's what come the time, but I need to let these dry fully. So, thanks ever so much for being here. Thank you for being witness to this. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.